Hello, I'm Maria. Never did I think I'd experience something so extraordinary, something that would alter my life forever. Yet here I am, compelled to share my story. I died. I crossed over to the other side. What I encountered there was beyond my wildest dreams. I met Jesus, and he revealed something about black people that left me utterly speechless. This was no mere vision, it was an epiphany. I'm still piecing it together. Morning. The sky was overcast, the air felt heavy. My vision blurred, and distant voices, sirens wailing, people shouting. I didn't grasp what was happening. Call out to the people down there, but no sound unknown. Then in the distance a light, all of it disappeared. All that remained, and I found myself in a place I can't even be. I was driving to work, just like every other morning. The sky was overcast, the air felt heavy, almost as if the universe was trying to tell me something. But I wasn't paying attention. My mind was preoccupied with thoughts of bills, work, and all the little worries that had been weighing on me. Then, out of nowhere, a sharp pain pierced my chest. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced, intense, crushing, terrifying. I tried to breathe, but the air wouldn't come. My vision blurred, and suddenly everything around me slowed down. The cars, the buildings, the people on the sidewalks. It was as if the whole world had entered slow motion. I don't remember the exact moment I lost control of the car, but I remember the screech of tires, the sickening impact, and then nothing. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the asphalt, staring up at the sky. I could hear distant voices, sirens wailing, people shouting, but none of it felt real. As I lay there, something strange happened. The pain vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of calm. It was as if all the burdens, all the worries I had been carrying simply melted away. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't even sure I would survive. That's when it hit me. I was dying. At first, I didn't grasp what was happening. One moment, I was lying on the ground, feeling my body grow weaker. The next, I was above it, floating. I could see everything, the paramedics rushing towards me. A woman crying nearby. My own lifeless body sprawled on the asphalt. But I felt no fear, no panic. Just a strange sense of detachment, like I was watching a scene from a movie. I tried to call out to the people down there, but no sound came out. I was weightless, drifting further and further away. Then I felt it, something pulling me upward, not physically but spiritually. An invisible force was guiding me higher. I had no control over it, but I didn't resist. A deep, absolute peace washed over me, a peace greater than any I had ever known. Then in the distance a light appeared. Faint at first, but growing brighter and brighter. It was like no light I had ever seen before, not harsh or blinding. It was warm, welcoming, as if it were calling me home. I moved towards it effortlessly, as if drawn by an invisible thread. With each passing moment, the world I had known faded away. The city noises, the voices, all of it disappeared. All that remained was the light and an overwhelming love that enveloped me like a gentle embrace. Just as I was about to enter the light completely, I heard a voice. It wasn't loud, but it had weight, resonating deep within my soul. "It is not your time." The voice sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. Then, in an instant, everything changed, and I found myself in a place I can't even begin to describe. It wasn't Earth, but it wasn't entirely unfamiliar either. It felt like a space between two worlds, and that's when I saw him. The moment I stepped into the light, everything changed. I was no longer floating, no longer a distant observer. I was there, standing in a place that was both unknown and profoundly familiar. A brilliant light enveloped me, not harsh. The tunnel wasn't empty. Shadowy figures around me like a warm hug. They welcomed, but from within, a purity that illuminated everything. Every act of kindness, all laid bare. The tunnel disappeared. I was no longer in that planary. Something long hidden, glowing with a golden light. I saw a shifted again. I saw changing. The oppression was never just fit. The tunnel wasn't empty. Shadowy figures lined the sides, their forms flickering like waves of pure energy. I couldn't see their faces, but I instinctively knew who they were. They were souls, people who had passed before me. Some felt oddly familiar, as if from another time, while others were strangers. They didn't speak with words, but I could sense them, not with my ears, but with my spirit. Their silent voices wrapped around me like a warm hug. They welcomed me, reassured me, and made me feel safe. It was the most profound peace I'd ever experienced. I continued deeper into the tunnel. With each step I felt lighter, as if the burdens of life were dissolving into nothingness. Then, at the tunnel's end, I saw him. A figure unlike any I had ever seen awaited me. He radiated light, not just around him, but from within, a purity that illuminated everything. His presence was overwhelming, a blend of love, peace, and immense power. In that moment, I knew without a doubt, I was in the presence of Jesus. I couldn't move or speak, I could only feel, and what I felt was beyond words. His gaze met mine, and in that instant, my entire life flashed before me. Every moment, every choice, every mistake, every act of kindness, all laid bare before him. But there was no judgment in his eyes, only deep, infinite understanding. Then he spoke. His voice was both thunderous and gentle. "You are not here by accident, Mary." I wanted to ask why I was there, what it all meant. But before I could speak, he raised his hand. And in an instant, everything changed. The tunnel disappeared. I was no longer in that place. Instead, I found myself in a new, yet strangely familiar realm. It was then that he revealed a profound truth about Black people, a truth that would forever alter my perspective. I was stunned as Jesus extended his hand towards me. His eyes held a depth of wisdom beyond comprehension. And in that moment, I knew I was about to witness something extraordinary, something long hidden. Without a word, the space around me transformed. The tunnel vanished, and I stood in an endless expanse. It was neither earth nor heaven, but a place where divine truths were unveiled. Before me, images began to form, flowing like living paintings made of pure light and energy. The first vision was of Africa, vast, magnificent, glowing with a golden light. I saw ancient cities, powerful civilizations, and people filled with wisdom, resilience, and spiritual strength. They weren't broken, they weren't weak, they were chosen. Jesus spoke, and his voice resonated within my soul. "The world has lied about them," he said. "They are not what they have been led to believe. They possess gifts, power, and knowledge that others have tried to erase." The vision shifted again. I saw chains, ships, people torn from their homeland. I saw suffering, unbearable pain, generations being told they were less than who they truly were. And then, something even more startling appeared before me. I saw spiritual forces at work, unseen yet ever present, deliberately keeping the truth hidden. Jesus turned to me, his expression firm and unwavering. "The oppression was never just physical," he said. "It was spiritual. If only they could remember their true essence. They were insignificant, were beginning to remember his hand, guiding me deeper into the unfolding. Warriors, men and women alike, in direct faith, their very identity, weren't solely allies. This wasn't about hate or division, like anything I had ever witnessed. Though the world to share this message, yes, Jesus replied. They were chosen, Jesus said, but though his eyes held a solemn intensity. I was alive, but I wasn't the same person who had left their true selves. Jesus smiled. The time of revelation is upon us. They will rise again. My eyes filled with tears as I felt an emotion deeper than I had ever known. The truth had been concealed, but not forever. It was coming into the light. The visions continued, relentless and unwavering. Once more, Jesus extended his hand, guiding me deeper into the unfolding revelation. I witnessed a time long before the chains of slavery, before colonization and oppression, a time when black people possessed a spiritual wisdom so profound it defied mere words. They understood the profound connection between heaven and earth, between the spirit and the tangible world. This divine wisdom had been passed down through generations. I saw prophets, leaders, and warriors, men and women alike, in direct communion with God. They needed no intermediaries. They could speak to the heavens themselves. Jesus met my gaze, his eyes filled with sadness and love. This is why they were targeted, he explained, because those who hold power fear those who possess divine wisdom. My mind raced as everything suddenly clicked into place. The relentless efforts to strip them of their culture, their faith, their very identity weren't solely about control, but an attempt to sever their connection to truth. Yet, as I watched, something extraordinary happened. Even though they had endured oppression and been told for generations they were nothing, their spirit remained unbroken. Their power endured, a force that could never be extinguished. This is why they must remember, Jesus continued. In that moment, I realized this wasn't about hate or division. It was about restoration. A world built on lies was now seeing the rise of truth. The vision shifted again, this time revealing a great awakening. People of all nations, especially black people, were rising, rediscovering who they truly were. I saw them breaking the mental chains that had bound them and reclaiming their spiritual power. It was a sight unlike anything I had ever witnessed. Though the world had tried to erase them, they boldly stepped into the light of truth. And as they did, something miraculous occurred. The very fabric of the world began to shift. Jesus turned back to me. The prophecy is unfolding, he said. They will lead the world into a new age of spiritual awakening. I gaped at him in astonishment. Was this why I was being shown these things? Was I meant to share this message? Yes, Jesus replied, as if reading my mind. You must tell them that the world is changing, and they need to know the truth. Overwhelmed by the revelations, I fell to my knees. This was beyond matters of race. It was about identity, purpose, and destiny. It wasn't a declaration of one group's superiority over another. It was a call to restore balance and reveal the truth that had been hidden for centuries. They were chosen, Jesus said, but so were many others. It is time for all my children to remember who they are. Suddenly everything around me began to fade. The light, the visions, even Jesus himself. I felt myself being pulled backward, as if an unseen force was drawing me away from that heavenly realm. No! I cried out. I don't want to go back. Jesus smiled, though his eyes held a solemn intensity. You must, he insisted. The world needs your voice. I wanted to protest, but before I could speak, a sudden jolt, like an electric shock, surged through me, and I gasped for air. I opened my eyes. I was back. The steady beep of the hospital machines enveloped me. Doctors and nurses rushed to my side. I could feel my heart pounding and my lungs struggling for each breath. I was alive, but I wasn't the same person who had left. I had witnessed things that had changed me forever. I had spoken with Jesus. I had seen the truth. I knew my life would never be the same. As I lay in the hospital bed, everything seemed different. The air heavier, the lights too bright, the voices around me overly loud. Although I was physically present, I felt like I'd known the truth, and now I was back to explain what I had seen. Who would believe me? One sleepless night, I found speak about my experience. I was met with doubt. It wasn't just my imagination. It was real. That's interesting, he ventured. It was frustrating and hurtful all at once, replaying every detail of what I had witnessed. I had spoken to Jesus. I had been shown the truth, and now I was back in a world that remained oblivious. For days, I barely uttered a word. I could see the concern in my family's eyes, hear their hushed conversations when they thought I wasn't listening. They believed I was in shock, traumatized by the accident. Perhaps I was, but not for the reasons they imagined. I was grappling with something far greater than myself. How could I possibly explain what I had seen? Who would believe me? I tried to dismiss it as a dream, a hallucination brought on by my near-death experience, but deep down, I knew it was not that. It wasn't a dream. It was real. And the longer I stayed silent, the heavier the burden became. The weight of what I knew, of what had been revealed to me, pressed down on me like an unstoppable force. One sleepless night, I found myself staring at the flickering city lights outside my window, and that's when I heard the voice again. A soft whisper urged me, "Speak." I turned around, but there was no one there. Yet deep down, I understood its meaning. I couldn't keep this revelation to myself. I had to share it. But where to begin with that first vision? The moment I tried to speak about my experience, I was met with doubt. I had gathered my closest friends and family, eager to tell them what I had witnessed, what Jesus had revealed about the hidden spiritual power of Black people. But as soon as I began, I saw uncertainty flash in their eyes. "You had an accident, Mary," my sister murmured softly, as if suggesting my mind was playing tricks on me. "No!" I interrupted her. "It wasn't a dream, it wasn't just my imagination. It was real." I continued, telling them everything. The tunnel where I met Jesus, the revelation of Black people's divine connection. I spoke with passionate fervor and unwavering conviction, hoping my words would resonate. Yet, when I finished, only silence greeted me, broken by my best friend's hesitant clearing of his throat and a strained smile. "That's interesting," he ventured. "Maybe it's symbolic, your mind processing everything that's happened." My heart sank with every word. They didn't believe me. I tried again, with church members, acquaintances, even strangers online. Time and again, I was met with the same reactions. Some dismissed it as a hallucination, others urged me to stay quiet, and some even became angry, accusing me of pushing an agenda. It was frustrating and hurtful all at once. I had been entrusted with this message for a purpose, but no one wanted to listen. Then, one lonely night, as I sat, appeared, and strange calls from unknown numbers, but it had vanished without a trace. Ushering a story. This was a spiritual battle. I remembered that moment with Jesus, how he had looked at me to be told. If you're reading this now, void, no matter how passionately I spoke, or maybe it was finally time down when I tried to document my experience, videos of my near-death encounter mysteriously disappeared, and strange calls from unknown numbers would flood my phone with heavy, silent breaths. At first, I dismissed it as paranoia, but one night, something undeniable happened. I had just finished recording a message detailing how Black people had been spiritually oppressed for centuries. As I prepared to upload it, my computer screen flickered, and in an instant, the entire video was gone. I searched everywhere, but it had vanished without a trace. A shiver ran down my spine as I surveyed my apartment, suddenly feeling like I wasn't alone. That's when I saw it. A shadow slipping across my living room wall. I gasped and spun around, but there was no one there. "Keep speaking," The voice whispered again, closer this time, almost desperate. In that moment, I realized I was facing something much bigger than just sharing a story. This was a spiritual battle. Whatever forces were trying to keep this truth hidden, they were not happy. I was faced with a choice. I could let doubt, fear, and resistance silence me, retreat back into my old life, and pretend none of this ever happened, or I could fight. I chose to fight. I chose to keep sharing the message, no matter the cost, no matter who doubted me or tried to stop me. I remembered that moment with Jesus, how he had looked at me when he revealed the truth about black people. He had chosen me for a reason, and to back down now would be like turning my back on him. So, I made my decision. I started writing, speaking, sharing my experience with anyone who would listen. I didn't care if people laughed or doubted me, or if strange events continued to shadow my every move, because I knew the truth, and it needed to be told. If you're reading this now, it means that despite everything, I kept going, and I need you to do something. Share this message. This isn't just about me. It's about all of us. The world is waking up. The truth is emerging. And it's time everyone, especially black people, remember who they truly are. This is just the beginning. At first, it felt like I was screaming into an endless void. No matter how passionately I spoke or how tightly I clung to the message Jesus had revealed, people continued to turn away. Then, something shifted. I shared my testimony online one day, just like I had countless times before, but this time, it exploded. I can't say for sure what made this post different. Maybe it was the way I phrased it. Maybe it was the growing spiritual unrest in the world. Or maybe it was finally time for the truth to be heard. Within hours, thousands of people were commenting. Shares wasn't about convincing everyone at once. Connections began to form. Started receiving threats, not just from anonymous troll was living it. Black people have been spiritually back harder than ever. Summoning all my courage, I whispered his name. What we've been taught, they wrote. Tell us more, became the common request from those who were beginning to awaken. It was then I understood this wasn't about convincing everyone at once, but about planting seeds. Not everyone would believe immediately, and some might never. But those who were ready to listen, listened. The revelation Jesus had shown me wasn't just mine anymore. Others were beginning to feel it, see it, and recognize the truth. As more voices joined in, something incredible happened. Connections began to form. Scholars, historians, spiritual leaders, even those who had never believed in God before, started to come together. The visions I had received were fragments of a larger truth that many of us shared, and now we were piecing them together. However, as the message spread, the resistance grew stronger. It wasn't just doubts anymore. Something darker was fighting against me, against all of us. I started receiving threats, not just from anonymous trolls on the internet, but from people who seemed to know intimate details about me, details they had no way of knowing. My emails were hacked, my videos disappeared, my posts vanished without a trace. One night, I received an anonymous message, "Stop talking, this is bigger than you." A shiver ran down my spine. I had read about spiritual warfare before, but now I was living it. Black people have been spiritually oppressed for centuries, and now the forces were working overtime to silence the truth. This wasn't just about history or injustice. It was a battle for souls. And it was happening right now. The forces that had enslaved, erased, and manipulated Black history weren't human. They were spiritual. And now that the truth was coming to light, they were fighting back harder than ever. One night, I woke up to my apartment filled with the thickest darkness I had ever encountered. It wasn't simply the absence of light, it was a presence, a force. Then I saw it. a shadow standing silently at the foot of my bed. It didn't move or speak, but I felt its intention. It wanted me to stop. I wanted to scream or run, but I was paralyzed with fear. Then I remembered Jesus. Summoning all my courage, I whispered his name. Go away. Instantly, the shadow vanished. The room brightened, the darkness lifted, and I understood this wasn't just about spreading a message. It was a fight for the souls of millions. There, I was shown the future, their divine identity, and breaking free from nothing to prevent the truth from spreading. I turned to Jesus, could no longer be hidden. The were oblivious, lost in distractions, fully asleep, but not fully awake either. It felt like my spirit had been transported to another realm, a place outside of time. There, I was shown the future, a great awakening, but also a great war. Not just a war between nations, but a spiritual battle. The forces that had enslaved minds and spirits for centuries wouldn't give up. They were preparing to fight. Their weapons weren't bullets or bombs, they were lies, deception, and control. I witnessed people awakening to their inner power, embracing their divine identity, and breaking free from generations of manipulation. I saw black people, once broken and silenced, rise up with an authority that shook the earth. They were reclaiming their ancestral wisdom, their spiritual gifts, and their connection to God. Yet even as this rebirth was unfolding, I also saw the enemy retaliate. The media, governments, even some religious leaders would stop at nothing to prevent the truth from spreading. They would manufacture distractions, incite division, and spread fear to keep souls bound in spiritual chains. Then I had a vision that stopped my heart. A wave of devastation like the world had never seen before, a deluge of floods, raging fires, and earthquakes in places that had never known such fury. I saw cities crumble, people fleeing, the entire world crying out for mercy. I turned to Jesus, who stood beside me, and asked, "Why is this happening?" His gaze, filled with sadness and strength, met mine as he said, "The world must be shaken before it can be restored." Then he revealed another vision. After the chaos, after the suffering and destruction, a new world began to emerge, a world where people would no longer be enslaved by lies, where the truth of who they are could no longer be hidden. "The final battle has begun," Jesus declared, "but victory belongs to those who walk in truth." And in an instant, I was back in my room, breathless, trembling, my heart pounding in my chest. I had seen what was coming, and I had no choice but to prepare. The weight of that vision was too immense to ignore. The world was hurtling towards a spiritual war, and most people were oblivious, lost in distractions, arguing over politics, chasing wealth, living in fear, while the real battle raged unseen. I began to speak out even louder. I shared what I had seen, what Jesus had revealed to me. Some listened, many didn't. I've come to a painful understanding. Some people are not steadfast in their faith, who embrace. I can't predict how many more times I'll be able to say, because you were. You are up doubt, but deep down, your soul already, and every soul must decide, will you stand for the truth or remain in the shadows? Jesus cautioned me that not everyone would endure what's coming. Some will be overwhelmed by fear, others will fall to deception. But those who hold steadfast in their faith, who embrace their divine strength, will rise as warriors. I may not understand why Jesus chose me to deliver this message, but I cannot stop now. The forces that aim to silence me grow stronger, but so does my faith. If you are hearing these words, know that it is no coincidence. You were meant to hear them, meant to awaken. The choice is now yours. I can't predict how many more times I'll be able to speak before the forces try to silence me again. But before I go, understand this. This is not just my story. It's yours. The truth is coming to light, whether the world is ready or not. The spiritual battle has already begun, and you have a role to play. Perhaps you've already sensed it. The feeling that something is amiss in the world, that you are destined for something greater, because you were. You are a part of this awakening. But waking up is not easy. It takes courage. It takes faith. It requires you to step out of fear and into your divine power. Jesus did not reveal these truths to me for me to keep hidden. He showed them to me so that I could share them with you. Now I ask you, will you accept the truth, or will you turn away as if you never saw it? The world will try to distract you, and the enemy will sow doubt, but deep down, your soul already knows the truth. This is your moment. Step into your power, awaken. And when you do, help others to awaken, because once the veil is lifted, there is no going back. The time is now. Choose wisely.